Hi, so today we are going to be talking about avoiding moving to Utah unless you can handle these 5 things, and we're going to go ahead and get started right now. Curla here. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if this is your very first time here. This channel is literally everything you need to know about eating, working, playing, sleeping, and living in the Salt Lake City, Utah area. If that is of interest to you, consider subscribing down below so you don't miss our weekly videos. We hear from people like you all the time who are relocating or looking to make a move here to the Salt Lake City, Utah area, and we absolutely love it. So if you are thinking about making a move next month, 6 months from now, or even a year from now, or even just entertaining the idea, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, and we'd love to connect with you. Okay, so you're definitely going to want to avoid moving here to Salt Lake City, Utah if you can't handle these 5 things. So let's hop right into it. Number 1, we have to talk about the weather because that is something you do when you live here in the Salt Lake City, Utah area. If you can't handle a long winter, Utah may not be the right spot for you. However, let me share with you a couple of things about the weather and winter and all that. So Utah winters compared to a place like Minneapolis, Minnesota. My mom grew up in Minnesota and she used to talk about, oh my goodness, Mariah, these winters were, the wind chill factor, the below zero, the this, that, the other. And she goes, I remember when I got to age 18 and I made my way to California because I told myself I will never, ever I will never live in a winter that is that cold ever again in my life. So she ended up moving to California and the rest is history. But Utah winters are certainly not at all like Minneapolis, winters at all, but they can get cold and they are cold. We don't see here though a lot of the wind chill factor that much, and we really don't see a lot of below zero type of days right here in the Salt Lake City, Utah area. Winters though, right around November, beginning of November, middle of November, temperatures definitely drop. In December, typically you're going to have a white Christmas with the snow. I know the last few Christmases that we've been here, it has snowed on Christmas Day and my kids are like, this is the most magical thing in the whole world. And then you move right into January. January and February are typically the coldest months here in Utah. And yes, it will get icy and it will get cold. But one thing about Utah here too is there are a lot of sunny days. So even though it is cold, the sun is usually out. So that's kind of a nice thing to kind of keep in mind. But by the time you roll into March and April, you'll still see some April snow, which for skiers, a lot of them absolutely love that. That's spring skiing. And occasionally we'll even see a little bit of snow in May. And then typically it'll be like one snowstorm. It blows in, blows out. Nothing usually sticks too much. But just keep in mind that winters here can be long for some. And again, everybody's different, but if you don't like the snow, Utah might not be the best spot for you, or at least the Salt Lake City, Utah area. A lot of times people during the winter months that live here that don't care for the snow, they'll head down to southern Utah, down to the St. George area down there, because it will be a lot warmer there. And then they actually flip-flop and then they come here during the summer times because it's a lot cooler than it is in southern Utah. So number 1, long winters, something to keep in mind. Number 2, the cost of living and the house prices here in Utah have increased drastically over the last decade and even beyond there. I'm going to date myself a little bit, but I remember when my husband was finishing up graduate school here in Utah, And I was teaching elementary school at the time. I was teaching 3rd grade because I had gotten my degree in education, and I was like, oh, great. And I had, a wonderful year teaching 3rd grade here. I remember on my little teacher salary of $28,000 a year, my husband and I were actually looking at purchasing our first home here, and we were looking actually out in the Eagle Mountain area. And at that time, I could afford to buy a house. For the house that we were looking at was $98,000. Yes, you heard that right, $98,000. And on my teacher salary, we would have qualified for it, which I'm like, how would that be right now, right? But that was 17 years ago. So, but prices obviously since then have increased a lot. We didn't buy that house. I should have bought that house, but it didn't happen. Oh well. Moving right along though, yes, house prices have gone up here, and then just the cost of living, it's still a lot lower than many of the surrounding states, Colorado, California, and it's a lot less than there. However, we are seeing an increase in pricing here. And I know some of our friends that have been looking here in California, or from California, looking to make a move here to Utah, all of a sudden they're like, Mariah, I think we're getting priced out of Utah. And I'm like, well, it really depends on the areas that you were looking at, because there are still lots of affordable areas here in Utah. It's just, you gotta know where to look. So if you're thinking about making a move or looking, just give us a call and we're happy to help you in that. But that would definitely be number 2. Cost of living here has gone up from the previous years. Number 3, I know you hear probably a lot of this one, is definitely the inversion. If you can't hang with the inversion here in Utah, you might want to avoid Utah. Although you can see here today, it is a beautiful, gorgeous day, and the air quality is fantastic. So basically what the inversion is, it is a thick layer of smog that gets trapped inside the Salt Lake City, Utah Valley area, and it sits there. Typically it happens during the winter months where a storm will blow in, the inversion will sit there in that bowl for a while, and then a couple days later it will blow out. But people that have asthma or other health conditions, they seem to be more affected by that inversion. Occasionally, if those inversions, when the air quality is poor, many times like for kids in schools, they will either, have indoor recesses for that time, or even like for outdoor sporting and all that. Sometimes I know like my kids' soccer has been canceled like once just because of poor air quality, but it doesn't happen very often at all. But just something to kind of keep in mind if you have some health challenges, that inversion may or may not affect you, but again, something to definitely keep in mind. And then number 4, something that we are seeing more and more of here in the Salt Lake City, Utah area is the homeless population has gone up quite a bit. And some people have said, just during that COVID time, and now here we are in a recession and all of that, people have lost jobs or people are going through tough times with all of that. So we have definitely seen an uptick in the homeless population. And in fact, I was in the Sugar House area recently, a little suburb that's right in Salt Lake City, Utah area. And I was at a store there, and right next to the store, there are signs that say, please do not give to the solicitors. Please do not give to the homeless here. If you want to give, please donate any of that to charities. And there's lots of good places that can help them. And because what's happening is there are so many generous people here in Utah that people have noticed that because they're giving and it just is attracting lots more. So we're not seeing it in a lot of the other like smaller suburbs, but definitely right in the immediate city, you are seeing more of that. So something else to consider. Number 5, avoid moving here to the Salt Lake City, Utah area if you can't handle the traffic. Yes, traffic has increased because so many people have found out about this beautiful state and this beautiful area. So traffic has definitely increased. And depending on the time and, you know, where you're at, I know I-15 is one of the big main freeways that's right around here, and it goes off and it branches off into the 215. Both of those freeways can get very congested depending on the time of day that you're going. But if you're hitting it right around 5 o'clock, there's probably a good chance that you are going to be in some stop and go traffic. I know recently I was going right on the 15, going up to Ogden. One of my kids had a soccer game up in Ogden. And luckily we were in the carpool lane because I had my son and another friend that was with him in the car and myself. And so that commuter lane, you're able to take that. And luckily we were able to just sail on that commuter lane for a while. But besides that, it was stop and go. We probably hit that probably around 5:30, but it was pretty bumper to bumper. It does let up. And again, depending on the day, depending on the time, but traffic has certainly increased here over the years. It's nothing like San Diego traffic. It's nothing like Bay Area traffic. It's nothing like LA traffic. But for Utah, I know I've heard lots of rumblings from locals like, man, the traffic's gotten bad here. Actually, I was just talking to a gentleman at my son's soccer game, and he is from a town in southern Utah of 500 people. Yes, 500. And he was just saying like, oh, you know, once the kids grow up, we're moving back to our town of 500, because he's like, I'm just done with the traffic. I'm done with the traffic. And so at any rate, depending again where you're at, could be a little bit more, could be less. It's mostly during those rush hour times, but certainly something to consider. So I gave it to you. Those, I want to keep it real, raw, and honest. Those are 5 things that, again, if you, the long winters, the inversion, the homeless, again, the traffic, some of these different things, consider that. For some people, like myself, it doesn't sway me, and I feel very lucky to live here in Utah, and I absolutely love it. My family loves it here. But again, those might be deal breakers for you. So wanted to make sure that you've got that information so that you can make the best decision for you and your family. If you are thinking about making a move here to Utah or relocating here, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, and it would be our pleasure to connect with you. Take care and have a great one. Bye.